let's continue with this story then tonight. The Daily Maverick reporting that close associates of Health Minister Zweli Mkhize have pocketed about 90 million rand in suspicious payments. This originates from 150 million rand COVID-19 and National Health Insurance communications contract. The publication says Mkhize's personal and long-time friend Tahera Mather and her personal assistant Naadhira Mitha are at the center of the debacle. For more on the story, we're joined by investigative journalist at Daily Maverick, Zweli Mkhize. Peter, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time tonight. Firstly, you first brought us the story in terms of exposing just the contract that had been entered into by the Department of Health and these close associates of the minister. Tell us what you were able to uncover at the time, because this is really a follow-up to that story.
Yes, Kathy, good evening. So there's been significant kind of new information that we've been privy to and that we've analyzed and combed over and sifted through over the course of a couple of months now. It's a month-long investigation. Our initial report in February this year kind of merely indicated that there was this contract that Digital Vibes had clinched from the Department of Health and that X amount of money had gone to them, and that these individuals, Tahera Mather and Naadhira Mitha, who had walked a very close path or journey with Minister Mkhize over several years. They were part of his ANC Unity campaign in 2017, for instance. So we detailed that the money went to them, but now, following some further, revelations or information in our possession, we can show how the amount actually ballooned to 150 million rand, not 82 million, and that a vast portion of this money, 90 million rand, was seemingly divvied up and forwarded or flushed to accounts that Mather and Mitha had set up. And these are businesses that, by the look of things, have nothing to do with the delivery of this communications contract. It does look at this point like an alleged looting scheme that was devised to extract monies from the department. And together with that, on the back of records in our possession, we can also show that the company billed the Department of Health for very dubious services. They charge the department essentially for organizing Minister Mkhize's COVID-19 media briefings, for instance. And these are tasks that should be handled by the spokespeople and media liaison staff inside the department, and not by third-party outside contractors charging millions of rands for these seemingly unnecessary billings.
Of course, what you found in one instance is that there was about 3.6 million rand, I believe, paid for the minister to go onto the SABC and announce a second wave of COVID-19 to the country. Now, under any circumstance, that would have been a briefing that newsrooms would have gladly put on their platform. It didn't require any kind of financial incentive or reward to make it happen.
Absolutely, Kathleen, and that is kind of what rent-seeking behavior really boils down to. Rent-seeking corruption involves individuals extracting monies from government departments for totally unnecessary services, for essentially bogus services that should never incur a cost. I think you very correctly pointed out that the SABC, your channel, all the other channels would be lining up to host the minister in such an important national interest announcement like announcing the second wave of a national health crisis, being the COVID-19 pandemic. And on top of that, the SABC especially, that is a national broadcaster. It's got a duty and a mandate to carry messages from government officials that is in the country's interest and that should serve the public. So the fact that there's monies involved here and millions of rands siphoned off to or funneled to this third-party company, Digital Vibes, really raises eyebrows.
Peter, let's also talk about then the third-party interests here, because money wasn't just flowing into the hands of these associates. You've been able to track down other third parties of interest who may have received part of these payouts for services that are not quite clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, so the Mather family, for instance, secured a very big portion of this contract. I think Tahera Mather's own company structures that she set up, but to kind of affirm the fact that this is not just a normal disbursements of money related to a contract, but rather an alleged looting scheme, is the fact that her son, her daughter, her brother-in-law, her sister, all of these very close family members all got monies paid to different entities they controlled. Then there are other third-party entities. For instance, we found that 10 million rand went to a company called Mateta Projects. Its sole director is an individual whose wife worked at Lutuli House during the period in which Zweli Mkhize was a Treasurer General, and they've been photographed together. There's also money that went to the late Amabaka King's royal a company, Royal Barker, which your viewers will recall was involved in last year's PPE saga. R1 million went to that company, and that has not been explained yet. So, it certainly looks like a whole host of accounts and companies and third parties were queuing up to receive some of this money, and it just doesn't appear like they can provide any legitimate business reasons for why they would have received these monies that are directly linked to the DOH contract.
Of course, the minister has, tried to at least distance himself from wrongdoing since the first expose that you brought us in February. It seems that with more information coming out now, that this matter needs to be taken even more seriously, because when we were told about this case, it was that they were, given this contract for NHI communication, which we know is still very much a project on the go, and yet they diverted it to COVID-19. But even then, the amount of money that have been spent on this project, one simply cannot find the paper trail to justify 150 million rand worth of communications over this past period.
Definitely not, and it's very important for us to keep in mind this was initially an NHI contract that kind of morphed into a COVID-19 contract as the pandemic became increasingly a problem in early 2020. And it's also very concerning if we consider the fears over the NHI, that what is essentially the very first NHI contract really became an opportunity to loot by all appearances, because as we detail in today's installment of our investigation, the entity Digital Vibes, for instance, just a small example, they did some animations work for a NHI awareness campaign. They only paid the animation studio 300,000 rand, but they billed the department 1.1 million rand. That's 800,000 rand pure profit. It's a 300% markup. It seems like from the outset, even on the NHI leg of their work, they were totally overbilling the department, and this just continued as they started rolling out the COVID-19 work alongside Minister Mkhize. And he certainly has some tricky questions to answer, because these are individuals who have been close to him over several years, and they coincidentally, the same entity, Digital Vibes, just happened to secure that earlier contract in 2018 when Minister Mkhize was the Minister of COGTA, and Cooperative Governance, or its agency at least, MISA, gave that contract to Digital Vibes. So there are just a myriad links between these individuals and Mkhize, and monies from the departments or entities that he controls that end up benefiting this company and these individuals.
And look, Peter, I know we should be used to corruption stories by now, but I tell you what, it remains astounding, just the amount of money that seems, off the face of it, spent on services that has just been blown out of proportion. And of course, this is part of the investigation conducted by investigative journalist at Daily Maverick, Peter Louis Mayberg. Of course, the department still needs to respond to it.